I'm Njeri Njuhigu, and this is MyStory. So I was born in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a Grady baby. My mom and dad divorced when I was really young. And then I moved my mom to Albany, Georgia, which is South Georgia. We would have family gatherings for the holidays that were really nice. And I really remember the love that we shared between each other and the support we had for each other. Because my grandmother was really a fierce, independent woman who had been married at 16, but had really made her way in the world. Went on to get certificates and degrees, and so she was really a good example for us. My mom was also very independent and very kind and loving to everyone she met. She was there for anyone that needed help around her, and I think that really helped me to understand what family meant and what it meant to be loved and cared for. During my younger formative years, I really had a challenge fitting in, because I was a little bit of an odd duck in terms of my family and friends. I used to get called an Oreo a lot because my mom always had me speaking proper English in the Deep South. We would read a lot together. We would watch a lot of B sci-fi movies. It was really difficult in the beginning, but knowing that my mom had my back really made it a little bit easier, because her whole goal was to expose me to a lot of different things so that I would not feel like I'd missed anything when I became an adult. Around the time when I was 14, I became really ill, and the doctors thought I might have mono, and no one could really figure out what was wrong with me. I eventually was diagnosed with a liver condition, and they said I may never recover from it. And I wound up spending at least a year in my formative years at home being homeschooled because I couldn't walk more than 5 feet. But our faith really helped me to know that that was not the end of my story. Years later, the disease that they said would never leave my body was healed. There was something working in the universe that was higher than me. I go to college to be an architect. I went to Washington University in St. Louis, and I was in their architecture program, and I had a second major in cultural anthropology. I thought that I was going to be this great American architect, and I was going to do affordable housing and buildings for everyone. One day, a friend of mine came to me and said, "Why don't you come to set with me?" Because he was a wannabe actor. Just hang out on set with me as an extra. And I said, "Sure, why not?" And I filled out the paperwork, and they saw that I had a degree in architecture. I had experience in graphic design, and they asked me to be an intern on the movie and do graphic design work on the movie. And they liked me so much after filming in Florida that they took me to New York. The cast gathered the money and actually funded me to go to New York. Well, in New York, people that are not in the union cannot work on the set. That led to me meeting John Singleton in New York while he was writing the movie Shaft. And he said, "You would be great in LA." As fate would have it, on the plane ride to LA, Mara Brock-Akil's mother sat next to me. Once I landed, she said, "You should look up my daughter." And it took me about a month before I looked up her daughter. But her daughter happened to be writer-producer on Moesha at the time. And the week that I called her daughter, someone quit. And I interviewed, and out of a pool of 30, I was hired as a writer's assistant. And that's how I started in television. In 2008, we'd had a writer's strike, so I was revamping my career. In September 2010, I got a call, an emergency call from my mom and her husband. And my mom's husband needed to have spinal surgery. And as a result of that spinal surgery, he could no longer be the caregiver for my mom. I said that I would talk to the doctors and find out what needed to happen. And we discovered that the doctor that he had in the small town of Albany was not going to be able to perform the surgery to the degree that we needed it performed. And so I made arrangements for him to have surgery with a team in Atlanta at Emory Hospital. And that decision changed my life forever, because that one decision to make sure that my parents were okay led to them living with me and moving in with me in LA. I really had to make a decision about my job choice, and so I moved into unscripted television, and during the day I was the caregiver for both of my disabled parents, my mother who had spinal cerebellar ataxia and my father who had had spinal surgery. As a result of that decision, I worked at night in unscripted television until I became a supervising producer. Subsequently, my mom lived 12 more years. As a result of working with my mom and my dad through those 12 years of navigating the social services system, of navigating doctors and care, I realized that I was not the only one, that there were a lot more people in America that were dealing with this transition of not only their parents, but their lives as a result of taking care of others. And so once my mom passed in January of 2023, I committed myself to founding the nonprofit, the CareBox Network, in order to support family caregivers across America. And so through my journey as a caregiver, I think one of the key lessons that I learned was that even in the presence of what appears to be failure, it's really just a lesson on how to do better the next time. Because we're not going to always get it right. We're not going to always pick the right doctor. We're not going to always pick the right medication. But as long as we pay attention to the steps we take, then we can learn from those things if they turn out to not work out to the best that we think they should. And so in the end, there's never, ever really any failure. There's really just lessons to be learned along the way. Because all of the things that we do are really just part of our story and part of our journey. If my 20-year-old self could see where I am today, I would say, listen to your mother. My mother was a very forward-thinking woman, and she really had her pulse on how things were evolving in the world. As soon as computers came out, she had an Apple IIgs in our home for us to learn computers. I remember when I did not want to take typing in school, and she was like, this is a life skill. You need to know typing. And though it was the worst grade I got in high school, was taking typing, it has served me well as a writer and producer in my life. What drives me today in my business is knowing that no man is an island, that we all need support. And as long as I can deliver kindness one box at a time to family caregivers across America, then I know that I've made the world a better place one person at a time. Women give up about $600 billion in wages being family caregivers. That is unpaid $6 billion with a B. Men give up about a little over $300 billion in unpaid wages. That's a major sacrifice that individuals make, not only to their families, but to society. And so I'm really passionate about supporting them because I know what it feels like to not be able to get a fully electric bed if you need one, because the insurance will only give you a partially electric bed. I know what it feels like to not be able to get diapers from the state because you don't qualify, but diapers cost you $60 a pack. And so it's really important that we don't forget to love the ones that are loving, and that though being a caregiver may take you away from the thing that you thought you were supposed to be doing, in the end, delay never means denial.